Good morning, everybody. My name is Shane. So nice to meet you all. All right. So I'm just about ready to go here. If there's any correspondence you'd like to make at any time, please do drop those messages in the chat and I'll get right back to any questions or concerns you may have. But yeah, I'm very excited. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And with yeah, in a minute or two, once I'm sure everyone is all ready to go, I'll kick this off. I'm happy to give a few minutes if there's still some folks joining us, but just let me know if we're all good to go and I'll get going. Hello. See, we found the emoticons. That's awesome. This could be its own form of entertainment. Okay, so without further ado, I'll get going here. So my name is Shane Mitrovitz. I use the preferred pronouns he and him. I work at Supernova on the computer science team as a program assistant, and I'm so excited to be here to talk to you about pixels and animation. So I'm going to share a slideshow, and then we can go from there. Okay, I'm just going to wait till I see it pop up on my screen. There we go. All right. So let's get started just talking about pixels. And this is a very popular word. A lot of people have, talked about pixels, but let's get into it a little bit deeper. What are pixels made of? Can we see them? Where can we find them, right? So what is a pixel? Well, the word pixel comes from the word pels, which is a picture element, right? That's just a little background. But all we really need to know is that they're small lit up areas on a screen, right? And all the images we see on screens, whether it's a phone, a TV, a computer, are all made of pixels, which are all very small squares of light. So it's often impossible to see where one really is and another starts. And screens have been getting so good in recent years that they're only making it harder. Whereas a long time ago, you might have been able to sit back, relax, and be like, hey, I see the pixel. It wasn't as advanced back then. So here we have a magnifying glass. We're looking closer at our screen now. And we can see that there's almost these three lines. There's this red, green, and blue line that are all making up one pixel. So that's a little sneak preview into how we do color with pixels. Is we're using different colors of light, all in different amounts, to allow us to have different complex colors. And so another important term here is how many pixels we really have on our screen is what makes the word resolution. So if I say, oh, it's really low resolution, I'm saying, no, there's actually not that many pixels. And what if it's really high resolution, there's maybe thousands and thousands more pixels, and it makes it for a smoother image. So again, it's the level of detail that a picture has. And then the more we have on a screen, the clearer it will appear. So a common high definition resolution that you may see on YouTube or anything like that is 1080p. So that is really just saying that the height of the display takes 1080 pixels. But then to the left and right, we also have 1920. So just by doing a quick multiplication and saying, well, if we have 1920 per row, and then we have 1080 rows of that amount, just multiply them together and we get this massive 2 million pixels on a screen that's displaying 1080p. So it's going to be pretty difficult to tell exactly where those pixels are starting and ending. Now, I'll also mention, if you have a screen in front of you, maybe at home, you can be careful for your eyes because screens are bright. But if you squint and maybe look closely, I can see pixels on my screen because I don't have, super high definition display. Little Space Invader shout out in the chats. But definitely you can see almost the fuzziness, the imperfection of how the display is really showing these lines using squares. I can see it, I can't. Right, so it really depends on your screen that you're using. I know a lot of iPhones these days are so high resolution, it probably will not be possible really to tell them apart unless you get a magnifying glass, maybe like that other picture. But definitely they're there, I promise. They're little squares and they're using different colors of light in different intensities to give you all the colors in the rainbow, maybe even more. So now we're zooming in extra close. We're seeing these lines of blue, red, and green. And again, we're using different intensities of different colors to make a blend of all the colors possible. So it's kind of like in painting when you take a few primary colors and when you mix them together in different amounts, you can create any color you may need. It's not always easy to do so. Sometimes it's nice just to start with that color that you need, but it's possible to blend all the colors using these basic building blocks. And so that's sort of the idea why they do it with computers, is because you can be super precise and it doesn't take a lot of effort to mix colors in any amount. And we get over 16 million different colors just from these 3 building blocks in different scaled amounts. And it's just unbelievable, the level of precision. And that's also why, a lot of the time really beautiful movies like in Ultra HD and stuff. Oh, sounds good, Bob. Sorry about that. But you may go into Costco or wherever, and there's massive screens, and you're like, that looks like Maui, that looks real. And it's because of that principle that they're able to leverage all those amazing HD colors. So without further ado, we'll kind of segue into some animation concepts, right? So we've talked about how our screen can display images. So another really big term here will be a frame. So anytime we have a single picture on our screen, we're going to call that a frame. And so the way animation works is by putting a lot of different frames one after the other. So before I play this quick little video, is there anything I went over a little bit too quickly? Any other questions? Don't be shy, just drop them in the chat and I'll be sure to take a look at that and get back to you. I'll just give about a minute for that. Let it roll, let the movie roll, yeah. It's kind of a sneak preview here, just seeing the drawing on the top. So this is another concept in animation is, fair enough, I'm gonna let it roll, but this concept that we can draw a frame, on a piece of paper. And that's the same idea, it's a still image. And then if we put all those pictures back to back to back, we create animation through that process. I'm gonna leave the volume off just because it's pretty loud and hard to balance the audio. Up here we have a storyboard. This is where the artists kind of got the ideas together for this animation scene in Monsters Incorporated. And on the bottom, we have teams of maybe hundreds of animators all taking that vision and doing each different animator a little different job. So this is a collaborative effort from a lot of different people that can allow us to have this level of artistry on the big screen, right? If you're a really talented animator, you may be able to produce this all by yourself, but it's going to take a really long time, and it's unlikely that that will be like a, a blockbuster hit. Maybe it will be a crazy, independent film classic. So don't be discouraged. There's a lot of Unreal animation tools that you can use just by yourself and create some really awesome animations. And just kind of taking it back in time a little bit. So the year is 2022. I still can't believe that. This was made 124 years. Wait, my math is bad. 104. Or sorry. It's always when there's an audience that simple math becomes more difficult. So 114 years ago here. Phantasmagorie was made by Emile Cole in 1908. So this is a flipbook animation, right? Or we call it that now, but the way they did it back then was by having light underneath of glass, right, and drawing on it. So this is sort of a very, it was very revolutionary at the time. Just sort of the idea that you could create a fully fictional, that means made up, sort of animation, just from your animation from your imagination. That rhymes. But let's take a little look here. And just sort of reflect on how far we've come in over 100 years of animation. First and most sophisticated cartoon until that time, right? So stream of consciousness, which translates into very random. Okay, it's going to be confusing, I can guarantee that much. Actually, I will play a little volume. I hope that isn't blasting your ears off. All right, well, there it is. Definitely strange sort of animation, but it's, for me, just, it takes me back. It puts me in a different state of mind where there's such a encouragement for just being creative and trying something that has never been done before, that ultimately can become a great piece of history as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of amazing animators online that you may have seen on Instagram or wherever you check out your media, people making amazing flip books, people that make their own animations now, and you can kind of see the history of where those ideas started. And yeah, exactly, it's how they're animating between the things. But even the word animation, like we always think of this smooth process, kind of like me saying hello and waving, but on the computer, it's actually freezing those images side by side, and it's an illusion, really. It's made to look like it's moving, but really it's not. It's just refreshing all the time. So this is a good illustration just before we get into actually making our own animations to show how different frames per second counts will make a visual difference on your screen. So on the right here, we have 240 frames per second. And then on the left, we have 60 frames per second, which means that the one over here on the right is updating 4 times more often than the one on the left. And so for the first little bit of the animation, it will start again in a second. This right here you can see this is moving with 4 ticks every single time this one moves a single tick. And that difference will become evident, if you're playing an online game, you're doing something. If you're at like 3 frames per second, it's going to look really bad. You're going to be like choppy and you can't tell what's going on. But then as those refresh rate goes higher, it will look more and more smooth essentially. But that's all just, it's a trick essentially. It's all still images, but the more often we update them, the better it looks. Key terms, of course, are frame and frame rate. That's sort of where those words come from. All right, now for the fun part. So if we have our own, I know we're all on the computer dialing in here. So let's take a look at this website here called piskelapp.com, spelled Piskelapp.com. At Piskel already, good show. So I'm going to click on this as well. And since I'm only sharing the specific window on Collab, I will reshare the correct window. Thanks for sharing that, Jarman. Stop that and all right. Okay, so before we make our own, I'm just going to kind of give us a sneak preview. I made this this morning just to show us one idea of what kinds of things are possible in Piskel. On the left side here, we have all these different frames where we can make slight changes to a main picture that we've made. And then in the top right, it will show us animating that all together. And you'll even notice that there's a number that says FPS over there, and you can speed it up and then it goes crazy. Or you could slow it right down and say 1 frame per second. So now I'm counting 1 second change, 2 seconds, it changes, 3 seconds. And that's sort of just a slider you can use for that. But if I go to 0, it's not going to move at all. 0 frames per second means no motion at all. So with that said, I'm just going to, okay, so I hope that showed up correctly on the screen for everybody, but I will just sort of refresh this and start again. So yeah, it's definitely one of those tools where I'm not going to slow you down. Like if you want to explore and try different things, maybe click something, break something, please do. You can always just refresh the page to try again if you have an error or anything like that. On the left side, it's a lot of tools that you would see on Microsoft Paint. So we're going to start with the pen tool, and we have different sizes of pen tools as well. So I'm going to start just with 1 pixel big. And I'm just going to write my name. Hi, I'm Shane. Oh my goodness. Maybe that was a poor way to start because writing is hard. But you can always delete your frame or add new ones as well. If I add a new frame just by clicking this box, it will create a second frame that's empty. Or I can just duplicate using the double stack button, and I can make more frames that are exactly the same as before. So that's the pen tool. We can go through these tools as well and just get used to, do I click on Create Sprite? So if you click on Create Sprite, it will take you to this exact page that I'm on. So that sounds perfect. If it doesn't take you right there, yes, hit Create Sprite and you'll go right here to where I am. Thanks for mentioning that. I think it was because I've been to this website before. It sort of just took me right into the creation of Sprite, and so I missed the first screen. So can everybody see my screen? You can't see the screen. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. I'm going to try to share it again. Okay, so interesting. So it seems like a split. Okay, some people can. Now we can. That's good. Okay, so all I did there was I right-clicked, or I just clicked on the Collaborate panel to close the chat window, and I think it pushed my update through to the screen. Thanks for keeping me posted on that. I was unsure if you couldn't see the Piskel creation screen or my screen at all. So yeah, okay. I think we're on the same page now, which is awesome. So now that's set, I'm just going to take it from the top. We have here on the left a lot of tools that you may see in, Microsoft Paint. You can draw, you can erase things, you can draw rectangles, a lot of the main tools you would expect on any kind of painter editor on screen. So with that said, you can make more frames if I write an S for Shane. I can duplicate that frame by clicking on the double stacked paper. And now I have 3 different frames, all with an S. And then if I, want to add a little something different to each frame, then it will slowly make an animating loop. You can always change how fast the animation goes with this little slider right here. This is lightning speed. 24 FPS isn't nearly as fast as that example from before where it was like 60 FPS. That's what we prefer. So you can see just at 24 how really fast it's actually going. But if I slow it right down to 1 FPS, I'm getting 1 frame per second, and 0 means no motion at all. So that was the pen tool. You can always change the size of your pen with the very top squares up to 4 pixels big. This canvas is really big the way we're seeing it on our computer screens, but the way the file is actually being stored on the computer is only 32 by 32 pixels. In the very bottom right, you can see it shows the size of the image. So that's why, when I select 4 pixels big, it's actually this massive brick. It's because we're actually really zoomed in right here. So I'm just going to erase this and keep going. We have the vertical mirror tool as well, which can do nice symmetrical designs, kind of anything you might want. Paint bucket, you can fill in stuff. I guess this is a good time to mention where the color selectors are on the very bottom left. When you left click on this black box here, it says your primary color for left mouse button. And you have this color slider that you can go anywhere with. And you can change the absolute color on the right side and then all the shades and tones on the inside. So that said, I will also point out that there's a secondary color that you can also change. So that means that, if I have my left click, I can do that, and then right click gives me the other color. So I'm just going to erase these lines that I just made. And then again, paint bucket, we can use left and right mouse as well. I'm just going to choose empty again. Paint all pixels of the same color. You can just dye all the same color pixels. So even if they're disconnected, they change color together. The stroke tool is just a straight line, which is pretty useful if you need to do any kind of precision work or anything like that. Oh, I think my Piskel is a little, it's having some troubles, but that's okay. I just want to try and, oh my goodness, yeah, it seems I may need to reload my screen here. Just wanted to double check that. Yeah, absolutely. If this is, I'm just kind of going over the tools, and I'll also give you a prompt for an animation that you can try as well if you need an idea to get started. But if you feel like you're going for it, then please go for it. This is super open-ended. It's mostly just about exploring and trying to make your own animation and seeing about how all the little parts go together to make that, that big picture. I saw a hand go up. I don't see it anymore. Was there another question, or? Okay. So yeah, the rectangle and circle tool also save a lot of time if you don't want to draw things manually using the pen tool or the straight line tool. Specifically, circles might be pretty difficult unless you are, pretty good at drawing pixel circles for some reason. This is probably the most important tool that we'll use to animate things. So if you're doing your own work right now, I'll ask that you just tune in just for this one step. I'm going to just point out how we actually move something on the canvas. So I'm going to just take a little rectangle here and maybe just give it some color just to make it more interesting. We have some selection tools here. The dotted lines near the bottom, the rectangle selection and the lasso selection, basically will allow you to highlight any object you have on your screen. And when you do that, you need to hold down the Shift key. There's a reminder for that when you hover above this tool, it says right there, Shift, hold to move the content. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key once I've selected this. And then when I left click and drag, I can actually move this around. Okay? And then when I let it go, I can tap the Enter button and it allows me to move that. So that's going to be super handy. If I have a frame and I duplicate it, I'm going to be able to now highlight this, hold down on Shift, left click and drag, and I can move it over just a little bit. And then if I tap on left click or Enter, it will allow me to actually move that. And you can see that change is being reflected in the top right animation. So this is going to be a really handy thing. You may be thinking like, oh, I don't want to redraw all my work again. It's not like the old days, animating for Disney or Looney Tunes where you got to actually draw every frame. It's 2022. We can copy and paste, right? Like we can reuse our content from before, move it over just a little bit, and create the appearance of motion step by step. I'm just going to duplicate this one more time and just move it a bit more. If you notice this stencil on the right side of my screen and you're thinking, hey, I don't have that, double check that your onion skin here is turned on, and it will show you where your last frame was so that you can get a better idea about the details that you're going to put in there. So that was kind of a very quick overview of a lot of the tools. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not going to go into in depth. One more thing I'll mention for you folks, just to make sure that you can preserve your work that you do today. On the very right side of your screen, you can export your work as a GIF if you want to download it there. I'll also recommend just saving it in the middle tab, this little save cartridge. You can save as a .piskel file, which will allow you to upload it really seamlessly back into Piskel if you want to, shut down your computer for a little while and start where you left off next time. So you can save that as Piskel. I'll just click it just to see what happens. Yep, save as type Piskel file, and that's what we like for this compatibility. But if you wanted to, put it somewhere else, you can even download it as a GIF as well. Okay, so those are really good things to be aware of. Since this is a web page, do be careful. Like if you close your web page, it may not save your work. So do make a good practice of trying to keep up on those things. Would hate to see anybody lose their masterpiece. So without further ado, I'm going to kind of get started on making a different animation. Another thing you can use the selection tool for is the delete key. Like if I highlight a bit of it and I tap on delete, you can remove some of your selection, which is cool. And yeah, so let's think about animation for a sec. When we are moving our object around, we can translate it, right? We can shift it over pixel by pixel and make it look like it's moving. But what if it needs to change what it's doing? What if it needs to, it hits a wall, right? Is it going to stay the same shape? So without further ado, I'm going to suggest that we make a bouncing ball. So that will be a really good illustration of those different tools coming together to make an animation where we need to translate things. We need to change the way it looks and actually redraw parts of it when it bounces, and then go in reverse order, bouncing back up. And these ideas you can apply to your own work as well. I've seen tons of really inspiring, cool things that people have made. Like I always go with robots when I want to, make a little sprite, a character, and then just kind of make it move back and forth and shift around. But the sky is the limit. There's a lot of possibilities here. So I think this is fine. Yeah, we got a hand raised from Mohammed. You can drop your question in the chat or speak out loud if you're more comfortable doing that. Unless Yep. So again, if there's any questions or anything with that, you just drop it right in the chat. I have it on my other screen, so I'm making sure I'm not missing anything. Uh, okay. So this is gonna be my ball, and you're gonna be like, "Hey, that's not a circle," and be like, "Okay, you know, it's not a circle, but it is a ball for our purposes." And we have our first frame here. So the first step you want to do anytime you're making, oh, you can't see the screen. Thanks for letting me know what's going on. I'm going to try and toggle this again. Can anyone else not see the screen? Okay, so some can see. Maybe, Mohammed, if you want to refresh your page, I hope that will work. But I definitely, I don't have a reason to think it's not pushing out to the internet right now because it is sharing my screen. I can see the line around it. So hopefully you can get that on your screen pretty soon. But yeah. If you ever want to start an animation, you're going to want to draw your character or your sprite in your first frame and sort of just spend more time on it. You want to make it look good and you want to have a good place to start from so that when you go here and you say duplicate this frame, it will preserve your work and then you can make little changes to that initial drawing that you made. So in my case, I'm just going to highlight this using the selection tool. Holding down the shift key, I'm going to drag it down with left click and then left click again. And I'm going to start to have this motion here. I'm just going to duplicate that one more time. And I hope that the screen is visible for Mohammed now. And drag it down a little bit more. I'm going to do this same process of duplicating the last frame all the way to the bottom of the screen, okay? If you don't want to do this so many times, you're also welcome to just start lower down to the bottom. And also on the pressure, like if you are already, you know, on a vision quest, you're making an amazing piece of art, like you can just keep this on the side and take these as kind of a guideline for how you want to make things move and interact frame by frame. But don't let me stop you if you're on a roll. So I'm almost at the bottom here. I'm going to duplicate this one more time. Okay, and here's the fun part. So now we can imagine a ball is dropping all the way to the ground. When that ball hits the ground, it's not going to take on the same shape perfectly, will it? I mean, unless it's like a marble, and when you drop the marble, it's maybe not going to change as much, but on a molecular level, it's still definitely moving a little bit. But a bouncy ball, that's definitely going to squish, right? It's going to make a difference in how the shape of the ball is. So we're going to keep that in mind when we go here, and I'm just going to drag it down, and I'm going to do a little trick here. I'm going to take the selection tool and I'm going to just take a slice out of the middle. Is there a link for that screen? Absolutely there is. I'm just going to grab that for you one more time. And so with the selection tool, I'm going to take a little slice out of the middle of this ball by hitting the delete key. And now we kind of have this floating pancake on the top. We want to drag that down a little bit so that it's all one ball again. So I'm going to select the upper part, hold down shift, left click, drag it down, and left click off of it. And now I've actually shortened how big the ball is. So I'm just going to do this a few more times. I'm going to duplicate my frame one more time here and take one more slice out like that and drag the lower part down. And we're really changing the way the ball is looking. It's kind of compressing. Okay, so that's a nice example of how we take our starting image and we're going to make little changes to react to the environment, right? And you can imagine any number of examples, like maybe maybe there's a bowling ball rolling towards your character, like are they going to go oof and like throw their arms forward and bend forward as that ball is hitting them, or are they going to stay perfectly still and just bounce out of frame? We need to think about the way our object is changing as the environment interacts with it. And that's kind of the mark of a good animator, which I am not, but I do have an appreciation for the art form and sort of everything that goes into it. So as this is compressing, we need to sort of think even more like, let's make it go really flat. Let's compress it a lot. I'm going to take the left half now. Actually, I'm just going to duplicate this one more time. So I have a fresh start. I'm going to take the left half and sort of drag it to the left and take this side and drag it to the right, okay? So now I'm kind of making it go wider, like, oh, I can't squish any more to the vertical direction. I'm going to kind of, a little bit of glitching, okay? Probably my internet just having a little bit of a rocky time. So I hope that that clears up soon. Definitely let me know if you can't hear me at all or if it glitches too hard, and I will consider refreshing things. It's definitely the, you know, working from home times and this virtual lifestyle. There's a lot of things that we can't predict all the time. So thanks for bearing with me on that. But definitely we're going to stretch this out. I find that looks a little bit unnatural in the top right, and you can always just sort of take things play by play and adapt as you make your animation and say, hey, is that working? So I've stretched it out a little bit and then I cut part of it out and it's kind of squishing down a bit more. I'm going to do one more step, duplicate again, and just stretch it out even wider. Also, beside each of these tools, you'll see a yellow letter. Like the pen tool has a yellow P, the eraser tool has a yellow E, and so forth. You can use your keyboard to choose that tool so that you don't need to always go back and click if you like, but it's not required. Another really helpful tool that I feel like I actually didn't go over, which I should have, is the color picker. If you have some nice colors going on in your image and you want to grab it back without going into the selection menu, you can use the color picker tool, which is the O. By clicking on that, I can take this color of red and it goes into my primary color, okay? But if you right click, it will go into the other section as well. So it does depend on your preference and everything, but that's super useful in case you wanted to reuse some colors from earlier. Sorry about that, Jacob. Glad you're back. Also, Sarah, let me know if you're still glitching or if I'm still glitching, and we'll take it from there. So yeah, I'm going to definitely go over what I've been saying again, and just to take it really slow, this is super free form, just about exploring Piskel, exploring animation. So it's not super, it's not important that you follow exactly what I'm doing. This is mostly for your own inspiration, your own ideas, so that maybe later you'll be like, oh, I have a great idea for an animation, and Shane talked about this tool called Pixel. Let's try it out, that sort of thing. Definitely don't feel like this is do or die. You gotta do it all right now. I'm going to just make one more little change to my animation here. And okay, sounds good, Jacob. Or sounds good. Whatever works. All right. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested to hear. Is anyone going on their own, like making a character, or how's this animation coming? If you have any questions or thoughts, maybe definitely let me know. I'm really interested to hear how it's going for y'all. Somehow I accidentally made my picture smaller, and now I can't get big again. Okay, so that might have been something like this, or maybe up in the top if it's like that. If it's small in the middle like this, I would recommend holding on the Control button on your keyboard and using your scroll wheel. Another way you can do that is in the very top right of your browser. There should be like a hamburger menu, and inside there's a setting called Zoom. Oh, that's good to hear. Can't see the screen yet? Okay, I'm going to try and toggle this really quick. I hope it refreshes soon there. So in the very top right, when I go to sort of the preview and it's animating there, when you hover above it, there's this, on the very left side, there's three icons. There's 1x, 6x, and full. So if you go to 1x, you can see how big your animation actually is, because we're on the pixel scale right now. We're working really small scale, maybe something that ants would only understand usually. But when we enlarge it and zoom in and kind of expand how big it is, then we can really see what's going on. And this is kind of the fun thing about pixel art. You can go in any level of detail that you want. How do you highlight? Great question. So you can highlight in two ways. There's the rectangle selection tool, which is the dotted line rectangle. And there's also the dotted line lasso tool. And then when you left click, once you've selected those tools, you left click and drag. You can make this selection, like a highlighted selection, but you'll notice that if you left click and drag it, it's not going to actually grab your art. The way you make sure it grabs and actually moves your work with it is by holding the shift key. So when you hold down shift and then you drag up and around, it will actually move that image. And then by hitting enter or left click, it will update your image to be on the new spot. So again, just watch out for these dotted line tools, really helpful for shifting your animation around the screen. Very awesome. So we have here a full sort of compression cycle, like we're falling down to the ground, we're squishing like a pancake. I don't necessarily want to redraw the work on the way up, though. I think that's a bit too much work. So we're going to use the duplicate tool to help us bounce back up. So I'm just going to kind of track this down in reverse order. It took me 11 frames to get to the end point of my squish. So the first one I'm going to duplicate is just stepping backwards. I'm going to go to number 10. I'm going to duplicate that frame, and when you left click and drag frames, you can shift the position of them as well, which is really helpful for reversing the order of things. And now I'm going to go to number 9 and duplicate number 9. And once I have that duplicated frame, just dragging it all the way down to the bottom. And now we can already see that very slowly my ball is sort of restoring its shape. Back to number 8, duplicate, and all the way back down to the bottom. All right. Yeah, and that's very it's a great illustrative example, sort of just for how to get started with animation. And actually, that didn't grab the right one. And again, it's super exciting thinking about other possibilities as well. And again, while I'm here, definitely drop any comments, any ideas that you may want to share with the group. Don't be shy. I am super open to feedback and suggestions. And with that said, I also am curious, how many students do we have joining us today? If anyone could just drop a number in the chat or anything like that, I would really appreciate just knowing how big our audience is. 14, I think. Thanks, Jacob. I appreciate that. So just take that and keep it in mind. And 6 for Svetlana. Thank you. So I am going to start another animation, because we do have around 15 minutes just to explore and create and ask any questions that we may have. So I'm just going to kind of do some pixel art. Okay, I'm part of the crew. Thanks. And yeah, just to give you some inspiration, I've seen, like, always be careful online, if you're going to search up anything. But there's a lot of really cool ideas that I've seen. Maybe actually I can get a few few things that I can show. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to draw instead. I couldn't find a good way to source somebody else's just for demonstration purposes. So yeah, with that said, I will refresh my page here. If you followed along with this example, awesome. I hope you got some practical examples of seeing how we animate a ball as it bounces. But I mentioned robots earlier, so I might as well just get right into that and show you sort of how to make a animated sprite. For anybody that's also used Scratch programming before, keep that in mind. You can upload sprites to Scratch by finding them on the internet. Nice. And also by making them yourself. Because the end result here is that we're going to download a file that contains your animation, and you can upload them to Scratch so that you can use them in your own creations. So I'm going to choose a different color of gray. We got a raised hand from Duncan. Yeah. How do you make a sprite follow your mouse? That's an interesting question. Are you talking about Scratch programming or in Piskel? In Scratch. All right. So the way you would do that is you would grab a forever loop and you want your sprite to always be following the mouse, right? So there is a block in the motion section that says point in direction. And then you have a drop-down menu and you'll choose point in direction of your sprite so that now your sprite is pointing towards the thing you want it to walk towards. So inside the forever loop, you have point in direction of sprite, and then the next thing you want to write is move 5 steps. And then that will always be running. And so the effect will be that your sprite is always moving towards that other sprite. So it's going to be a cross-disciplinary sort of seminar here. Scratch is really exciting just for bringing a lot of different ideas together. And for anyone that hasn't checked it out yet, I super recommend it. It's really a fun time. So I'm just going to keep on going with my robo here. Oh, yes, absolutely, Mohammed. Yeah. So here you go. All right. Maybe an antenna or something? Oops, there we go. All right, it's looking pretty good. I maybe will reduce the width of this. Oh, I still can't see the screen. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, I guess what I can try here, just for anybody having errors with that, is I'm just going to share my screen again, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead, share, and I hope that works for a refresh. Oh, 2 years ago on Scratch. For anybody that had interrupted feeds with their video, please find this upload on YouTube. We'll share the link with your teachers and everything, just so that you can have a play-by-play of everything that happened today. So definitely don't. Oh, okay, nice. We got some refreshes working now. And now it actually broke it for some other people. So I'm sorry about that. But definitely check out the YouTube upload for anything that has been interrupted. Sorry about the connectivity issues there. So with that said, so that's looking pretty good. I'm going to duplicate this frame and try to make some slight changes, right? So I'm just going to kind of move the entire sprite over just one step, and maybe, you know, delete the arm and just make it wave or something. That could be fun. And then kind of extend it out this way, too wide. Okay. And even those few little changes, we got this funny animation in the top. What else can we do? Maybe make some stripes and add some lights, anything like that. Yeah, we got a raised hand from Duncan as well. Or is that from before? Sorry, it says 9:47. Yeah, that was 5 minutes ago. I'm just gonna lower the hand. Sorry. Oh yeah, forgot about this. Yes, so definitely got some. Did one? That's awesome. Definitely share it with your classmates if possible. By, you know, anyone can anymore. Yes. Sorry about that. I wonder if there's an easy way to refresh that. Just because from my end, it's like you can hit the share button and then choose what you're sharing. And I followed that process and did that the first time, and then, you know, some could see it and some couldn't. I stopped sharing, did it again, and now it's caused some more issues. So sorry about that, folks. Maybe instead, this is just a different kind of idea. I'm going to share the screen because, you know, just for general cases, you always want to share the tab of your browser that you're interested in sharing, but just kind of taking a look here. Hopefully that maybe will have an impact on whether you can see it or not, just to see sort of what I've been doing, my masterpiece, you know. See it now. Okay, I think that this is interesting for my own learning for Blackboard Collaborate. That sharing the whole screen has better compatibility or pushes through better than sharing tabs on a browser. So I'll just keep that in mind for next time. Yeah, thanks for all the feedback, everybody. Sorry about the interruptions, but definitely keep an eye out for that video just to see the whole uncut thing. So yeah. Other fun suggestions for what you might be able to draw is like a dinosaur or any kind of animal. I know a lot of people are really great with that. I'm going to finish this a bit. Yeah, it's always a toss up, you know. I just can never be sure exactly. Oops. Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that to finish it off, we could. Although I'm, I don't know if I'm happy about it, other people seeing this robot, but it definitely could be a lot better. Maybe there's like some patterns, you know. Oh, does anyone else have cool ideas about what they can draw with this animation tool? No wrong answers. I'm just sincerely interested to hear what you're thinking. Oh, that's pretty cool. Really cool. So just kind of experimenting with yeah, changing colors between the frames and um, creating cool effects like that. I like that. Also, added bonus points for being able to write any word that you can read using only pixels because it's pretty challenging. Yeah. The last thing I'll mention, and this is kind of oh, oh, nice. Yeah, that's a great idea. Doing a dog or any maybe an inspiration from any pets you may have or your favorite animal. I find whatever you like the most is like what's easiest to draw. Maybe that's just me, but uh, there's good sense in listening to your. It's kind of just the first thing that you think of, you know, like what would you consider making, and go with that. um, I'm kind of giving myself away by drawing a robot, just being like beep boop. I promise I'm not an AI. I am a human. Yep, sounds good. I'm just gonna slap that in the chat one more time here. So this, we only have about a minute or so left before I need to get going. I just wanted to mention one last thing. In the background here, you see this kind of checkered tile pattern. That means empty space. So when you save your file and you leave the empty space in the background, it will make it so that it's a transparent area, meaning that other things can show up in the background. But then in Piskel, you can occupy that background using a color if you want by creating a layer. Just on the right side over here, you can make another layer, meaning that whatever I draw won't interact with my previous work. A ball that reappears on random corners, cool. Some teleportation action, I like to hear it. Um, and by using a layer, you can also use the paint bucket and like choose maybe a different color. And if it shows up in front, you need to change the order of the layers, but then it will allow for a background as well. Oh, it's okay. Again, for anybody that missed part of this session, watch for the YouTube upload, and you can go through it again, and that'll be available to you. So yes, again, thank you sincerely so much for your time and your attention today. This is, again, something I'm really passionate about, kind of creating online resources, whether it's generating code in Scratch, which someone else can play your game, or drawing something and bringing it to life with animation. I think it's all really exciting, and I love that it's something people can access at home, and just because they said I want to do it. So thank you for, again, everything today, and yeah, stay safe out there. Thanks for your, your resilience during these times. I know it's so tricky with everything being kind of on the fence and changing quickly with the way it is outside. So I'm glad we could make this space and make it fun. A worm and caterpillar, nice. That is super cool. Maybe the sequel could be the cocoon and butterfly. Mm. Good use of animation skills for sure. Well, until next time, everybody. Thanks so much.